evening, friends. Now, that was brilliant. I'm not going to deny. But we do want it louder. That's absolutely right, Your Grace. We do want it louder. So after 3, remember, we're reaching the 4 corners of the earth here. Good evening, friends. Good evening and welcome to Littleport Christian Spiritualists. It's a pleasure to welcome you're all right, you take time. It's a pleasure to welcome everyone here this Thursday evening for hopefully some spiritual upliftment, definitely some philosophical debate, and certainly some demonstration of mediumship where we prove that life is indeed eternal, where we reach out to those that we thought we'd lost and love and know that they are still watching over us, keeping an eye on us and making sure we're keeping in mischief. And yes, I did get that right. But of course, each week, my friends, we have a new medium. Sometimes they've been before, sometimes they haven't. They've all got to start at least once. And tonight we welcome back a very good friend of this church. It has been a while, but things have been a bit weird for the last couple of years. So we do understand that. But give a big, proper Littleport welcome to a very good friend of ours, Anne Fordham.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
It's much happier to have you back. It really is. And of course, welcome to all of our friends on Facebook and YouTube who are watching online, either right now or in the morning because they were busy watching what happened to Gray on EastEnders. I know what's going on, trust me. I'm not daft. But of course, thank you all, each and every one of you, for joining us, no matter when, where, or how. And of course, this is a Christian spiritualist service. So we always open our evenings, and we will, of course, continue to do so, opening this evening in gentle prayer. So let's join together for a moment as we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends, to unite under your banner of love, of hope, and of friendship. As we sit here, Great Spirit, in this, your sanctuary of light, we know that we are safe, we are protected, and we are well, and that we are given all the comfort and strength that we need when we are not. And we ask, Great Spirit, that is extended out into the world, especially at this time. For we know many do not know the joys of connections with each other. Many do not know the joy of being united as one. As we unite as one tonight, Great Spirit, let us send that message out to the world as we join together to witness your proof and your truth that life is indeed eternal. And as we place this service in your care and keeping, we make the statement as ever, everything we do will be in the name of love, truth, and light. Amen.
Amen.
Well, friends, this is the point where I usually have something to say, but I realise that I haven't even started my tea.
Does it usually stop you then?
No, not really.
I didn't think so.
But it reminds me of something I was thinking about yesterday, funnily enough. See, one of the first things that I learned when I became a spiritualist is that spirit ends with T. And I'm not talking about in the dictionary sense. I'm talking about the social side, the coming together at the end for a tea or a coffee or a biscuit. So it is a bit of a play on words. And it got me thinking about tea and coffee and all sorts of things, but in particular tea. I like mine nice and strong. I like the water in first, then the bag, and then the milk after, and then half a dozen sugars, depending on how bad a day it's been. Yes, I know, bad of me, but never mind, we'll get over it. That's how I like my tea. I can guarantee you that there's not many in the room who like their tea just like that. Now, tea is very much a very controversial thing because everybody likes it a certain way. I like my bag left in the water so long that it stews. If I were to do that to my boss down at the garage's tea, she'd kill me because it should only be in for a few seconds and then it's out and don't squeeze it. everybody makes their cup of tea in a different way. Now, back when we first started drinking tea in this country, you had real strong bone china cups, and you had really cheap clay cups that would crack under immense heat. So if you were drinking out of one of those clay cups, you'd have to put the milk in first, then the boiling water, then the tea bag. If you were drinking china, you could get away with putting the boiling water in first and then the tea. Now, some people like the round ones, some people like the square ones, some people like the pyramid ones, and some people even like loose leaf. And apparently, as strange as it might sound, you can now get instant tea in a jar.
Never tried it.
No, me neither. But you see, the thing is, everybody likes their tea in a different way. Spiritualism and many religions are exactly the same. There are many, many different ways of performing your spiritualism. There are many different ways of performing your faith and your reaching out to the Great Spirit. There are many different ways. Some people call themselves one particular kind of spiritualist. Another calls themselves another kind of spiritualist. Then you go into all the other religions, you got lists and lists and lists. But you know what? At the very end of it all, still all tea. And that is the point. We all like things a different way. We all do things differently. We all have our own quirks and trends and thoughts on how things should be. But you know what? Does it really matter? Just like with the tea analogy, if you were to drink my tea, you'd probably spit it out. If I were to drink your tea, you'd probably do the same. But it's still a cup of char. It's still something that you do. And this is the problem with this way of life, as with every way of life. Because if someone turns to you and says, "You're making your tea wrong," then they haven't got the point. Because it's your tea. Just like your faith is your faith. We can all come together and enjoy the aspects that we share in similar ways, in similar styles, in similar ritual and ideal. But we have to remember that we all have our own thoughts and our own opinions on how it works. And that doesn't mean that any one person is 100% right or 100% wrong. It's just how it is. When someone says to you, you shouldn't be drinking that tea, that's when you have to question them. Also, when someone says you shouldn't be praising to spirit like that, then you really must walk away. Because sometimes we cannot convince people that equality and equity are important. And I always throw in equality and equity at the same time. Because equality is important, but equity is just as important. We're back. There we go. Never mind. And I'm sorry for everyone who missed those last few words, but you should have been here. But basically, if anyone tells you that your way of thinking is wrong, they've missed the point. You see, at the end of the day, my friends, it doesn't matter how you do it. It matters that you do it. But when someone lectures you and tells you that you should be doing it their way, they've missed the point of spiritualism. Because spiritualism is about making a personal connection with those that have gone before and the Great Spirit. There's no one way. Just like there's no one way of making tea. Friends, in this world, in this day and age, in this life, we must look at what we have in common rather than what keeps us apart. And that is far more important. So from me and for anyone in this hall, come 9 o'clock tonight, spirit will always end in tea. God bless you all and thank you for listening. And for those who thought they were going to get some mad rant tonight, there you do. You did. Never mind. Well, friends, now is the time. We hope that the technology is working. We're going to have a reading. And what we tend to do is some churches work differently. They have the reading and the address follows on from it. We like to test the spirits. And we have the address first and see if the reading ties in, because then we know that they're keeping on top of things. So we've got a friend who's up north somewhere, hidden on the coast, and we say the magic words to bring him forward. Reverend Alan, are you there?
Indeed I am. Good evening, Littleport. Good evening, Reverend Nick.
Good evening. What do you have for us tonight, dear friend?
Well, we will just see how it all goes. But yes, I have a reading, and it is called I Believe, and it is by Valerie Stebline. I have to say that because it is copyrighted, you know me. I believe in a child's laughter and in a happily ever after. I believe in hugs and kisses and making wishes. I believe in a reaching for a star and in loving who you are. I believe in emotional feelings and in spiritual healing. I believe in let go and let God. He knows the plan, no matter how odd. I believe that a forgiving heart will never break apart. I believe in leading the way, taking along all those who stray. I believe in sharing treasures, gives back so many pleasures. I believe in prayer, even when life doesn't seem fair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. And yes, being all about belief, it definitely does fit in, because she believes in quite a few things. And obviously, I know you believe in quite a few of them too. So thank you, Alan. And of course, you're going to stay around for the healing, and we'll probably see you a bit later on.
Okay, mate. No problem. Have a good night, everyone.
We will. God bless you, my friend. Take care.
God bless.
Bless him. Now, this is the wonderful thing about technology, because when he moved north, he thought he wouldn't be able to do the reading very often. Well, he does now. Friends, now is the time in our service when we send out our healing thoughts to all those who are sick and suffering and in need of comfort. Did they get through all right, by the way? That's all right then. I'm sure we all heard the honking horn, somebody calling for assistance. And of course, we all need to call for assistance sometimes. So isn't it all tying in wonderfully well tonight? Or maybe I'm just mad. Healing is about helping ourselves and each other. Healing is about mediumship that anyone can do. And just like the reading said, it's the power of prayer. All you got to do is ask, and that's all that matters. And at this point, we come together, we say a healing prayer, we sit and watch some lovely candles and listen to some lovely music for a moment, and we send out our healing thoughts to all those who are sick and suffering, those we know, those we don't know. All you got to do is just think of them. And of course, each week we get given names. Now, our friend Lester Rosen, his dog's poorly. His dog's name is Max. So we're including Max in the healing list tonight, because animals should never be excluded either. But as I always remind people, also ask for yourself. It's okay. It's not naughty. It's necessary. So let's join together as we say the healing prayer and send out our thoughts. And it will end with the word Amen. As we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, here we bring unto you all those who are sick and suffering and in need of comfort, be they sick in mind, body, or spirit, that it may please thee to heal them. This we ask for those we know, for those we do not know, and those who have no one to ask for them. We ask for them now. Amen. Thank you, friends. Well, I think it must be a record. I don't usually finish yakking until way beyond here, but I think it's in honour of Anne being here so that I don't put her to sleep.
No pressure then.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. So, friends, in a moment, Anne's going to take over. She's going to, I know, say an address. She's also got a surprise for the end as well. But she's going to give our demonstration of mediumship. Now, should she come to you, please answer in a clear voice.
Don't worry, I'll tell them if they don't.
Absolutely. Yes, no, or don't know. And it's not so much about spirit. It's the fact that we're all nosy. We want to know what's going on. But of course, do have an uplifting evening. Send your thoughts and your love to Anne as she works. So, friends, I give you Anne Fordham.
Don't clip me up. There you go. As long as you don't clip my ear, which my mother used to do. Okay. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for a warm welcome, a very warm welcome. And it's lovely to be back. It's been a long time since I've been here. Yes, it certainly has. So listening to, I listened actually to Reverend Allen's reading. And also to your talk about the tea and the religions. And I just wanted to share with you, on Saturday, I don't know if any of you have seen the mosque, the new mosque in Cambridge. An absolutely incredible place. And on Saturday, my husband's a diabetic, and we were invited to go into a diabetic wellness day. And they catered so amazingly. The place was packed. We were all in the atrium, and there were doctors doing your health checks and all sorts of things. But this building it's all wood, all to do with nature. You know, even the rain comes down, and the rain is then channeled into being used in the toilets. So everything is reused in that building. It's actually Turkish design.
Yes.
So we loved it. I mean, the food they put on was absolutely amazing. All very healthy food, of course. But there was so much food. And we decided we wanted to go in and have a look in the prayer room, which is actually their church. So he said, could we go? And he said, yes. And there was a gentleman there, he was retired, but he was standing in his robes. And he was such a lovely chap. He really was. And we got talking about religion, obviously, as you do. And he and I both agreed. I told him I was a spiritualist, because lots of people think, oh, no, what's one of those? They're funny people, they are, you know. Lots of people think that, do they not? But he didn't. He said, well, I think that's wonderful. And you've come here. I said, yeah, I have. So he said, I said, after all, I looked at him, I said, there is only one God. He said, exactly, my dear. He said, you know, why don't all religions believe that there is but one God? It doesn't matter where you come from, what you believe. You know, we all come from the spirit world, and we all go back. You know, and it doesn't matter if you believe what your neighbour is saying, or what even your family, because you believe them again. you will see them again. You know, I mean, working as a medium, and Barbara will actually, she will actually agree with me here. So many come back, they didn't know. They had no idea that there was life after life, right? You know, and they come back in such a shocked state, some of them, you know. And it's wonderful to actually hear them. It's wonderful to hear them. Okay, so I just wanted to share the fact that I've got some photos if anybody would like to have a look. I've got some pictures on my phone. It is a wonderful place. They do tours. They do a couple of tours a day. So if anybody wants to go in, you can ring them and book a tour to have a look around. And they will explain everything to you. But of course, they're Muslims. So you've got the gentleman on one side, there's a door for the gentleman, and there's a door for the ladies. The ladies have some the gentlemen are on their knees, which where they should be. Sorry about that. All gentlemen, please do not get that wrong. But the gentlemen are on their knees praying, but the ladies are on the other side, sitting on feet, and what is going on. And there was a gentleman in there doing prayers, and that was actually being recorded and being sent out at that particular time. So, we actually heard, but it's a call to prayer. And it's every so many hours a call to prayer. And all of a sudden, lots of men came in and they sat, on their knees. I went down onto their knees and did the prayer. So we came out of that time. But it really was lovely. But I also wanted to talk about the love aspect, not just of our religion, but for the people in our world. I mean, the poor souls in, what can we say, in Ukraine. It really is. It's heartbreaking to see them, is it not? It isn't not. And Rosie, you know Rosie. She said to me the other day, she said, do you know what, Anne? I went to bed last night and I'd been watching it on the television, listening and watching it. And she said, and I couldn't sleep. She said, because I lay there and I thought to myself, I'm lying here in bed. Pete's next door in his bedroom. Jessie, at the moment, is in Sweden. And her other son, Simon, is in Kettering. She said, we're all going about, tomorrow morning we'll get up, we'll go to work, we'll do whatever we have to do. And she said, isn't that what the people of Ukraine were doing? And all of a sudden they were bombed. And she said, and it could so easily be us. They are 1.5 hours away from us flying. That's all. And said it could so easily be us. So I wanted to say, don't take what you have for granted, please. Because you don't know if you're gonna keep it, if it's gonna be there tomorrow. We never know. And I'm not just talking about us dying, I'm talking about anything can happen in our lives. When we turn that next corner, who knows what's going to be there waiting for us. But the most important thing is that we're ready for it and that we are brave enough and we have the courage to cope with it and to deal with it. I mean, the people in Ukraine, you look at the courage they've got. They're lifting their children, they're just grabbing whatever they can and they're fleeing. Sadly, some are getting shot as they're trying to flee. And it's so, so sad to see it. And, do you know what my husband says? He'll tell you he's not a spiritualist. He said, well, if there was a God up there, it wouldn't happen. I said, it has absolutely nothing to do with God or with spirit. It's the men down here, the men that want the power. And that's what Putin's all about, isn't it? Power. He wants all these old countries that used to be Russia, he wants them all back under his power and to live the way he says they've got to live. If he had his way, he's another Hitler actually, if he had his way, the whole world would belong to him. And I'm not into politics or anything, but I am saying I feel we could help them a little more than we do. We can't do any more than our government decides to do. And this kindness, we decided that we were going to do collection. We collected some things. So one of our members, she went off Sunday afternoon, she went to Tesco and she bought a double quilt, she bought a quilt cover, and she bought several things. And of course, when she put them on the conveyor belt, it was quite full, And this chap sniggered behind. He said, oh, are you going camping? Are you going off somewhere special? And she's very tiny. She's American. And she gives you that cold stare. The one Doreen used to give you. And Jenna is exactly the same. She just turned and looked at him and said, no, actually, it's the people of Ukraine. Oh, he said. She really took the wind out of his sails. But it didn't finish there because she was putting the stuff in her car and he tapped her on the shoulder. He ran out after her and gave her something in her hand and said, would you give this to the people of Ukraine for me, please? And when she got to the church, she opened it. It was £100. So that's kindness, even though he felt, I said to Jenny, you must have made him feel guilty, darling. So, but it was there, wasn't it? The kindness was there. And that's the second donation of £100. One of our members is in Sweden, visiting her mother at the moment. And she sent a message to say, I've put £100 into your bank so that you can send that to Ukraine. So, you know, and I think if we all do a little bit, and if financially we can't do anything, and we can't all go over there and help them much as we'd like to, we can send them lots of love. We can send prayers out to them. And we can ask Spirit to make sure they find the food and the shelter and the warmth and the comfort that they need. Because some poor souls, well, at the moment, they think there's some buried underground. You know, so I've been asking Spirit all day to help those poor souls. You know, if it is their time to go, please let it be mercilessly, you know, peaceful for them. Because we don't know, do we? We have no idea what we have to face tomorrow. So what I'm saying is, please don't take things for granted. Tell your loved ones that you care about them. Tell them you love them, you know. But tell them you like them. If you don't actually love them, tell them you like them even, you know. Because let's face it, you know, I think in all families, you know, most people will be saying, well, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. How many times have you heard that? But, you know, they're all people. We're all connected in one way or another. And it matters not what religion we are, what our beliefs are, we are all the same. We all came into this world in the same way, and we'll all leave it in the same way. And we will all go back to Spirit in the same way too. So I think we must be, you know, I mean, I know that I've been praying, and I'm sure many of you have been praying for the poor people of Ukraine, you know, because it's so hard. It's heartbreaking, actually. Even my husband sat crying when his little boy was having to say goodbye to his daddy. And he wanted to go with his daddy, but his daddy's got to go and fight. But that child may never see his father again, you know, and that's going to happen to an awful lot. Okay, so let's just be aware of, in our prayers, and make sure that we include, in ordinary prayers, but in our healing prayers as well, include all those who are suffering. Because we don't know what suffering is until you live such as they are at this moment in time. Okay? So I hope that you don't think I'm being coming on a bit strong, but I do feel very strongly about it. You know, and it could so easily have been, I have our family who've moved over there, live over there. You know, you'd be going frantic because you couldn't hear from them. You hadn't heard a thing. So let's just remember, you know, Spirit know what's going on. Spirit can contact them. So let's just keep sending our thoughts, our love and our thoughts and our prayers from Spirit for them. Okay? Yeah? You can smile, all of you. You know, you don't have to. I know it's a bit.
On behalf of everyone, I'll say I'll drink to that.
You drink to that one, okay. Okay. So will I. Mine's water, actually. It's not gin. Don't drink gin, so.
Oh.
Sorry. Thanks. Okay. All right. So I will go into some mediumship now. Then. Now, Barb, you know how I work. Barbara knows how I work. I'm not clairvoyant. I do not see Spirit standing or sitting with you. I'm not clairaudient. I don't jabber on in my ears, not like Nick does. They don't jabber on in my ears. So, okay, so I'm clairsentient, which means whatever they give me, they drop into my mind. Because I allow them to come into my thought, to my senses, and my energy. Okay, so, you know, I might say to you they're showing me or they're telling me, but it isn't because they're sitting there or they're talking in here. It literally is because it's all up there. So I say I don't see and I don't hear, but I do think up there, and you'll probably back me up there, Barbara. I think we do see and hear in our minds, don't we? So, and even though we say, no, I'm not clairvoyant, I'm not clairaudient, but I think we must be up there. We're a bit clear, a bit of everything, clear everything, I think. So, okay. So, if I come to you, as Nick said, I want your answers, but I want you to speak. I don't want that, or that, or that. Okay, I want yes, no, or I'm not sure. Okay, and if you're not sure, please say so. And you will not offend me if you say no either. You might offend someone in the spirit world if you get it wrong, but you won't offend me, okay? So please make sure that they can hear your voices, all right? Because I'm just a telephone. I'm the bit in the middle. It's spirit through spirit to spirit. So I literally am just that telephone. And if you were at home and your phone rang and you picked it up, there's nobody on the other end, you just put it down again, don't you? And I wouldn't blame some of them sometimes, because some people just don't want to answer, So just remember, they need to hear your voices. So have you invited your loved ones along tonight? No? Should we go home now then, Nick? I'm asking, who's invited their loved ones tonight? Yes, please. I've got two. Two might get a message then. Three, another one. Thank you, darling. All right. Can we have that a bit louder, please? Have you invited your loved ones? Yes. Right. See, now that's much better. That's what I wanted to hear, because it also lifts the energies. They know now that you are waiting for them. All right. Now, it may be, I know there's a lot of people just coming in, but it may be that your loved ones are there. And I want to say to you now, I'm not going to have time to get to all of you, but if you can take anything from a message that I am giving to somebody else, please do. Because it may be your loved one just getting their all in, and they're going to have a little say. And if they're not going to be able to get to the front of the queue, they're going to push from the back and just say something, all right? So please don't be afraid to say afterwards, oh, yeah, okay, that could have been so-and-so. You know who it is, all right? I don't need to know what it is they're giving me, all right? I just need you to understand what they're giving me, okay? Yes? Yeah, okay. So I know what I'm doing. Do you all know what you're doing? Oh, that's better. That's better. Yes. Good. Okay, so let's just see who we have anyway. I'm going to come to you, sir. Can I come to you, please? Yes. I have a gentleman coming from the spirit world, and I'm feeling a father's love with him. So he's a lovely man, this gentleman, but he was a bit tough, actually, when he was here, I believe. Oh, no, he's just telling me that. And he was saying, he knew I was there, and he knew when I said something that I meant it. Yes, you did. And, you didn't argue. You didn't question it, did you? If Dad said it, you did it. It's as simple as that, And he says, I'm looking at my boy and I'm thinking to myself, you're quite different to him, but there are traits of him within you, is what he's telling me. Can you understand that, yeah? So he said, you look different, your career is different, things you've done in your life is very different, but there are bits of me still in you, boy, whether you like it or not, he says. They're there. And you can't do much about it. Okay. I'm not sure if Mum's in the spirit world, because he's bringing a lady forward, but if it's not Mum, it could be Mum's mum. You want to his mum's it? You'll say, I wouldn't want to put her there if she's not there yet, darling. Sorry? She's there. She's there, yeah. Okay, well, they didn't always see eye to eye either, Mum and Dad. And because they're sort of standing apart now, and I can see there's a bit of a distance between them. So they didn't always see eye to eye. And I think, Mum she could also be a bit difficult, darling, couldn't she? And she said, I like to think that I wore the trousers. Yeah, she said he didn't always agree with it, and he'd argue. He'd argue the toss is what she's saying, darling. So she said, but at the end of the day, my word was the one that mattered. So she said, he only got a word in when I allowed him to. Does that make sense to you? So she said, I'm really glad, boy, that you're not like him. And you're not like me, really. Okay. But there are aspects, there's times in your life where you've had to be a bit like your mum. You've had to stand up. You've had to stand up and be counted. You've got your point across. Okay. Not to the point of, because Mum really didn't care what she said to people. It didn't matter if she upset them. And she didn't say sorry. It was not in her remit. Sorry. Neither of them could say sorry. So, but what she's actually saying to you, she's watched you, and she's saying, you do things because they need to be done, not just because you can do it like your mum did. That makes sense. So you only get angry, get cross with somebody if it needs to happen. And you will actually tell them things that you feel they need to know. Otherwise, they'll go on doing the same things wrong. You understand? So she said, who's to say what's right and what's wrong? This is your mum now, so who's to say what's right and what's wrong? So she said, I know I was always right, but your father thought he was right as well. So she said, you're along the middle, darling, is what she said. You sit on the fence sometimes. You're not like the pair of them, either of them, darling. So you sit on that fence, but you get off the fence when you need to get off, darling. Yes, that makes sense. Okay. I mean, they've learned a great deal since they've been in the spirit world, I have to say. But I think Mum's still got a bit further to go than Dad, Okay. She's actually saying to me, she upset a lot of people when she was here on the Earth plane. And she said, and what I don't like about it now is I'm having to eat humble pie when some of them have come over here now. She said, and I never liked to do that when I was there. So I certainly don't like doing it here. She said, but I'm having to, you know, and she said, because if not, I'll be stagnant. I'll just stay there. I won't move forward. Okay. So she says, that won't be how you will work. But that's Mum. And she said, but I am trying, honestly. I am trying, boy. And she said, you know, we never ever told you that we loved you, but I need you to know I'm very proud of you. Okay. She's very proud of the way you've conducted your life, sweetheart. Okay. She said, it's not the way I'd have done it, I know, but she said, I've looked at some of the results that you've got, some of the achievements that, you know, you've done a lot of achieving, she said, a lot more than she ever did. She said, I was good to stand there telling other people what to do. But no, you tell people if they need to be told, and that's it, sweetheart. Okay, so they're both saying to you, Dad's saying, I suppose you better tell him I love him, really. I do love him, just didn't know how to say it. And your mum didn't know how to say it either. Lord knows how they got together. That's me saying that. You know, I don't know how they got together, darling, but they did. And if they hadn't done, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. So there you go. So they want to say to you, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. You know, and Mum said she never would have walked through these doors, and neither would your Dad. He'd have run past your Dad would. Okay. Your mum might have put a nose in just to see what was going on, but she wouldn't have come in and joined in the service. Okay. But she's very pleased to see that you're here. Because she said, you know what? If you weren't here, I couldn't come in and have a little moan at you, could I? So she wants to say to you, I never dreamt there was anything. And your Dad's just piping up saying, I thought when you was dead, and that's it. You know, there wasn't anything else. You know, so he said, I got a big shock when I died. He got a big shock because he said, my mother came to meet me. He said, and I looked at her and I thought, well, she's dead. So if she's dead, I must be dead. You know, and he said that hit him hard, then, the realization that there is life after life. And he said, so now the things I didn't do when I was on the earth plane, I've got to do now. So he said, I'm so pleased looking at you because you're learning now. Neither of them learned very much when they were here, darling, about how to move forward, how to enhance the spirit. But you are learning, yes? And they're very pleased that you're doing that. You know, so your mum says, we'll be able to have a chat when you get over here. She said, that's a little while yet, but we will be able to have a chat. And she said, I might be a little bit further on my pathway as well by then. Okay. You're very sensitive as well, she tells me. Yeah, you work with spirit. You work with spirit, darling. Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, no, because even your mum's telling me that you work with spirit. And I can see the sensitivity with you. Okay. I mean, a lot of men would think, oh, I'm not going to be sensitive. It's not manly. But it is. It is. It really is. It's good to see that you are sensitive. And you can feel and help other people in much better ways then. All right? Okay. So please take their love, Dad said, and take my respect as well, boy. Your grandmother's waving as well. This is Mum's mum. She's there as well. She's waving to you as well. And do you have a brother? They're shouting at brother. I don't want to go now they've got here. Do you have a brother, sweetheart? One of them has a brother because they're shouting out brother is in the spirit world. You understand that? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to try and move on from them because now they've got the bit between the teeth. They want to carry on, you know. So I'm just asking them just to step back a little bit so that somebody else can have a go. All right. So thank you very much for working with me, my love. Thank you very much indeed. So let's see where we're going now. Can I come to you, sweetheart? Yes. Yeah. You happy for me to work with you? Okay, that's fine. Okay, darling, I've got a lovely lady coming here for you from the spirit world, and I actually feel it's like a grandmother's love. So you have a grandmother in the spirit world? Yes, you do. And she's telling me that you knew this grandmother really quite well, darling, when you were a little girl, didn't you? And that's what she's saying. And she said, we spent a lot of time together when she was little. And she absolutely adored you, darling, okay? And, you know, oh, Granddad's there as well. It's maybe great-granddad then. Sorry? Maybe the other granddad. Yeah, okay. It's fine, it doesn't matter where they come from. There's no greats, no littles, no steps, no, or anything, you know. So, but there is Grandad just waving to you as well, sweet. But your grandmother, did you call her Nana? Yeah, she did, because this is what because she's telling me off for calling her grandma. Okay, all right. And she would have done that because she didn't want to be a grandma. I made her old, she said. Okay, all right. But I feel she was quite young at heart, darling. She was quite young at heart. And you spent many hours with her, she tells me, because she loved to read to you. She loved to show you how to do things. And she said, you know, she'd listen to hours for your chatter. So I think when you were a little girl, when you were with people, John, that you knew, you could chatter. You could speak for England. But when you didn't know them, you were shy. And she's telling me that she's bringing this back. And she's saying, yeah, she was shy. And she used to hide behind my skirts when somebody said hello to her. You know, and I'd be trying to say, come on, just say hello. Just say hello. And she said, well, it took you a little while to do that, darling. You went to school and you were still shy, weren't you? Yeah. Yes, in your early days. And she said, you know, you weren't the type of child to put your hand up and say, sorry, miss, I didn't understand that. Can you say it again? You just kept quiet, darling. So she said, in your early days, there were lots of things you missed because you didn't have the courage to put your hand up. Okay. But she said, you know something? She said, I've watched her since I passed over here. And she said, I'm so proud of the things that you have achieved since she went, darling. You've achieved things you didn't think you'd be able to. Yeah, sort of. No, sort of. She's telling me you have, sweetheart. Okay. And she's saying, I knew you could do it, but there were times when you doubted yourself, sweetheart. Yeah? There's still times when you doubt yourself, she says. Yeah? And she's saying to you, just remember, will you? Just remember, you are very special. We're all special in our own way. But she said, you're not just special to me, but you're special to others around you. Okay? Could you just remember that, darling? And she said, and when you look in the mirror in the morning, she said, can you tell yourself you love yourself? Because you don't do that. And she said, sometimes you don't like yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah, I know. That's what she's saying. So she said, so when you're doing your hair in the morning, you're looking in the mirror, she said, just say, good morning, I do love you. And in the end, you will believe it. Because you will have said it so many times, you will believe it, sweetheart. Okay? Because, you know, if you don't love yourself, how can you expect anybody else to love you? Yeah? Okay. And I know emotionally you've been hurt, because your Nana said that you've been emotionally hurt. And it was at a time after she passed into the spirit world, and she said, I so wanted to put my arms around her. And she did put her arms around you, darling, but you didn't realise, you didn't feel her, because she said you were so distraught with the tears that you couldn't feel her, okay? I know that you're a sensitive girl, okay? She said she can be really quite emotional as well, okay? And you do worry about the underdog. You don't like seeing other people being hurt, do you, sweetheart? That's what she's saying. So she's saying, so she said, I've watched you, and I've watched the things that you've done, and I'm very proud of you. She said, but you've got to learn to be proud of yourself, my girl. You have to. Okay. All right, guys. Did you go to the beach with your Nana? Sorry? Yeah, because she just showed me a lot of sand around you. You know, and she said you loved being in the sand. You loved being in the sea. Even now you like to watch the sea. Not necessarily swim in it, but you like to watch it. And you realise, I don't know whether you realise, but you get a lot of energy from the water. And you can sit and you can watch the sea ebbing and flowing. And it brings you that bit of peace. And sometimes, darling, you've needed that bit of peace. So she's saying, you don't need to go down to the coast to see it. You can go to a river, anywhere where there's water. And you can gain the strength from that water. Because sometimes you need it, darling. Makes sense? Yeah. There's something you have to do, darling, which you keep putting off. Something leading to your future, she's telling me. Yes? Do you know where she is? Yes. Okay. So she said, come on, girlie, get on with it. You can do it, I know. All right. There's no good just putting it off, you know, because she said, nobody's going to do it for you. It's something that you have to do, sweetheart. You know where she is, don't you? Yeah. So, and she said, nobody can do it for you. So you've got to take the bull by the horns, girl, and go for it, she said. And I think if she was here, she'd tell you that as well, sweetheart. Yeah? Okay. I don't know whether you go and see her grave, but she's talking about a graveyard now. Yes, you understand that? She said there is one of the family graves that needs some attention. So she's not saying it's hers, but she said there is one of the family. It may be somebody you didn't even know, darling. So could you just check the family graves, and then whoever's responsible, go and tell them that she's just had a word to say, come on, sort it out, you know. Just make it look nice again. Yeah? Okay. I mean, I know that you can talk to your nana, and sometimes you think you hear her. She said something, yeah, I know, sort of. I like the sort of, yeah. But she's telling me sometimes, yeah, you think you've heard her, you know. Something she would have said to you will come into your mind. Then you've heard her, darling. You've heard just as I have now. Okay? So it's a thought process. It's how they work in the spirit world. All right? So she's saying to you now, come on, if you want to know anything or you want to talk to me, just send a thought to me. I literally am only a thought away. She said, you might not like the answer you get, but, you know, I am there and I will come back to you. She comes around you, she puts arms around you, darling. And she said, you know, sometimes I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure she can feel me. Then there's other times, no, because you're quite an emotional young lady, darling. There's been a lot going on around you, and she's very much aware of that. Okay, but she still wants you to have that hug. So before you go, when we finish, can I give you a hug from her, please, darling? Yeah? Because she says, please give it to her for me. Because you need it, darling. You need a hug from your nana. Okay? And if you don't, I have to go and wake my husband up because he'll be in bed when I go. And give him a hug and he'll say, what do you want? You know? So you have to do it, darling. All right? So come see me before I go. All right? She's a lovely lady, but she said, but so are you. You just have to believe in yourself and your abilities. Okay? Because it's all there. It's up to you now to bring it to the fore. All right? Thank you, darling. Thank you for working with me. All right? Thank you, sweetheart. Sip of this gin. I can't stand this stuff, actually. Right. Can I speak to the lady sitting on her own, please? Can I come to you, darling? Okay. Oh, I've got a gentleman's love coming here for you, sweetheart. I just come in. Not an old man. Not an old man, should I say, darling, when he passed through it. And I believe he went quite quickly when he did go. Yes. It was a build-up to it, he says, but the actual passing was quite quick. You understand that? It was quite a peaceful one at the end. Because he said it needed to be because he had struggled leading up to that point. Yeah, you understand that, and that's what he's saying. But he wants to say to you, thank you. Thank you so much. You did so much for him. Okay. He said she didn't only show me that she cared. You know, he said, I knew that she cared. She didn't have to show me that because I knew how much she cared. All right. And you know how much he cared about you, don't you, sweetheart? And this is why he's here tonight. Okay. And he's saying, you're finding it difficult. It may have been a little while, but you're finding it a little difficult to move forward, sweetheart, aren't you? That's what he's saying. And he's saying to you, you know, I really think, my darling, do you want me to carry on or do you want me to stop, sweetheart? Okay. He's telling me to carry on because he said you need it. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I will stop if you want me to, my darling. Okay. So he's actually saying to you, we had a good life, didn't we? We did so much together. And he says, but they're the things I want you to remember. Okay? And don't sit there and be sad because I'm not here anymore. He said, because I am, aren't I? Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you now. Okay? So he's saying, there are some days where you feel, it's okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. But there's other days, darling, you just lose it all. It's all gone. That's what he's saying. And he actually stands behind you a great deal, sweetheart. He stands behind you. He says, do you know, she sits on the couch watching the television. He said, but she's not actually watching. It's on, but she's not watching. You're not in it. Is that right? Because he said, I sit beside her at times. He said, and I'm thinking, well, what have you got this on for? Because you're not watching it. You know. And I think he would have said that were he here, darling. He was a lovely man, a beautiful soul. A beautiful soul. And again, I think he liked to have other people, darling. He was the type of man, he wouldn't turn anybody away. And he says, you are the same as him, sweetheart. Okay? So he's saying, and in that vein, what he's actually saying to you is, since he's passed away, sweetheart, you've found it difficult to help other people, but you have done it with some people. You've helped others. And he says, I want you to realise this will help you. By helping other people, it will help you as well, my darling. Okay? So he's saying, I'm beside you all the time when you're doing that. He said, because it's a natural thing for you to do. You don't have to think, oh, well, I'm going to help this person today. Because it's just natural. If they're there and they need the help, you're there to help them. All right? Okay. But it does help you. And he's saying, he knows, darling, you will never forget him. You know, you will always grieve for him. Grief never goes away, sweetheart. We just learn how to cope with it, how to deal with it, and we learn how to adapt our lives, you know. I've got a daughter. My ex-husband passed away 6 years ago, and she still is desperately. It doesn't matter, because she didn't believe in this, because he told her not to believe in it. Don't tell your mother to come get me down that. He said, tell your mother not to get me down that church. Get you down the church to talk to me, because I won't be there. He was there 2 weeks after he passed away. But I can't make her understand that. So she can't, it's got to be in her time. But thank goodness he says you do understand it. And I think you would have discussed with him about an afterlife, that there were things after life, didn't you? And that's what he said. And he said, and I'm so glad that we did talk about it. Okay. At the time you didn't really want to, because it frightened you, because you thought you didn't want to lose him, darling. But he said, it was necessary for you to talk to me. It was necessary that we actually discussed this, so that you knew where he was going, he knew where he was going. Okay? I know it's been very, very hard. There's a lovely aura behind you now. I don't see auras normally, but I can see one behind you right now, darling. A nice golden aura. So it just tells me he's definitely there with you, sweetheart. You feel him, don't you? You hear him too. I know. And you talk to him. He said, you know, sometimes she thinks herself, I'm sure he's not hearing me. I'm sure he doesn't hear what I say. But he says, nothing goes past me. I hear everything. I hear everything. And he wants to say to you, thank you for the funeral. Thank you for the funeral. You know, he said it was exactly as I would have wanted it. I know you even discussed that with him. But he said it went even better than he thought it would. All right? And he said it was at the time, yes, you were distraught, you know, with your grief. But he says, but she still did it. And she did it for me. He said, that to him was the most important thing, sweetheart. It was your way of saying goodbye to him, okay? And making it the best you possibly could. There was a lot of people there as well. He said he felt quite humble. He didn't know he knew as many people, you know, and he said it was amazing. It really was an amazing day. He said, it couldn't have gone better. I know there were a lot of tears. He said, but you know what? Afterwards, there was a few laughs, wasn't there? A few jokes were shared and a few stories were shared. And he said, and I loved that bit. And he did wander in and out between everybody, you know. So he's saying to you, was there a picture of him on the, did you put a picture on the coffin? You've got a picture in the house of him or something? Yes, because, and that's what you talk to. That's what he's just saying to me. He just showed me this picture and said, you talk to it. You talk to it. Okay, so I didn't know whether you put it on the coffin, but it's in your house. He said, you've got it at home. Okay. And he said, well, I think that's wonderful that, you know, we both believe. He said, but I hadn't realised how beautiful it is here. And he said, it really is amazing. He said, and it helps him to get over the fact that he had to go and leave loved ones. He said, it was the hardest part for him. You have a family, sweetheart. Yeah, because this is what he said. It's the hardest part for him to go, leave you and the family. But he said, I had no choice. And he said, you couldn't have wished me to stay because he was in pain. Yeah. So he's saying, but it's amazing that I can still see them all. And he wants to say, this is where you're the strongest, darling, when it comes to your family. Because you know you have to be for them. Yeah. They're grieving the same as you. Okay. But he said, the thing is that I really like to see is that you're grieving together. Yeah, you're grieving together. There's one in the family who finds it very difficult to show grief. Yes, do you understand that, don't you? And he said, I'm trying, it's a male, is it a son? Because he said, I'm trying to get my thoughts across to him. I'm trying very hard. He said, but you know, he'll believe things, but he does it in his own way. And in his own time, he's always been the same. So he said, don't worry about him. He deals with his grief, darling, in a totally different way to you. Okay? And it's no good thinking, well, I wish he would cry. He's going to do it the way he can cope with it, the way he can deal with it. All right? It's your husband, sweetheart. It's your husband. Father? Yeah. He's a lovely man. He's a lovely man. He's been a baby born since he passed the spirit world, because he's gone like this. He said, oh, I'd love to have a cuddle, because he loved the children in the family, is what he's just saying, darling. He loved the children. Okay. And you visit he has a grave. Well, you've got somewhere where you've got his ashes you've scattered, haven't you? Yeah. And he says you go there, you visit there. Other people in the family visit there as well, sweetheart. He said on special occasions people will visit, and he says a lot of them don't realise that I'm watching them. I'm watching them. Okay. And do you often see little Robin, darling? Yes, you have done. Because he said, yeah, I send them because I know you like robins. So he said, I send the little robins in just to say hello to you. And to say, I am here, I still love you very much. Okay. He's proud of you as his daughter. He said, you have gone a long way in your life, but you've also had to put up with a lot of pain in your life, sweetheart. And he's saying, he's been very well aware of that. And when he was here, he helped you. And he can still help you, darling. All right? Just send that thought out to him. And say, come on, Dad, what am I going to do now? How can I get around this? And he will help you to the very best of his ability, darling. All right? Lovely man. Yes. Very loving, caring man. And I feel he was a gentleman. And when I say that, he was a gentleman as well as a gentleman. Two ways of looking at that. And he was both. Yeah. He's both, yeah. This is what he wants to tell me. He worked hard for his family. But he said it was my biggest pleasure to be able to do that. All right? So just know that Dad's there. Dad will always be there. And he said, I'll still be there when you come over. He said, but you've got a lot more to do yet before you can come over. Okay? Your pathway is quite a long one yet, my sweetheart. So you've got a lot to do, You've got to tell other people about this, haven't you, as well, is what he says. You've got to spread the word, okay? And he said, if you can't think what to say, just send a thought to him and he'll put the words into your mind, what you've got to say, all right? Okay. So thank you so much for working with me, darling. He didn't mean that he felt that you needed the tears. He felt you needed the tears. So I didn't mean to upset her, but I just felt she needed those tears. You've got to release it, sweetheart. All right? Okay. So thank you so much for working with me, darling. Okay. Thank you, darling. All right. I'm not even looking at the clock, actually. I never do. Can I come to you, sweetheart? Yeah. Yeah. Can I? Yeah. All right. I can. That's good. All right, darling. Oh boy, you've had some tough lessons to learn, haven't you, sweetheart? Yeah, I know you have, darling. I know, because I've got a lovely lady here telling me that, and she's saying, she's such a good girl. She's such a good girl. You do everything that you know that you should do. So sometimes she can be a little naughty and forget what she's supposed to do. Is that right? Sometimes, not very often, though, is what this lovely lady is saying to you. But she said, tell her I love her. And I miss you. Yeah. And you miss this lovely lady. Is it a granny?
Yeah.
Yeah? Mum. Okay, grandma. Yes. She's a lovely soul, this grandma. And, she said she spoilt you, I think, when you were a little girl, yeah. She'd do everything for you, okay. And she said, and I always wanted the best for you. Yeah. Okay, and she still does, darling. Yeah. And she's so happy that you're here. Yes. And she can still talk to you. Yeah. Okay, that's what she's saying. So she says, you carry on being a good girl, won't you? You will. Okay. Is this your daughter? Yeah. Because she's saying, your mum, you've got a lovely mum as well. You've got a lovely mum. Yeah. And this is your mum. Yes. And so she's actually bringing a great big heart around the two of you, saying how close you are. Yeah. And she knows how difficult life's been for you, sweetheart. Mm-hmm. And she tried her hardest to help you when she was here. Yeah. And she says, but that help's still there. Excuse my back, everybody, won't you, please? Yeah. And she said she tries her hardest now to be present in lots of things, because things have gone on in your family and in your life since she's passed away, darling, And she's saying, but don't think I haven't been there, because I've always been there and I always will be there. Okay. You are aware of spirit, sweetheart. I know that's what she's telling me. She said, well, she knows that I'm there anyway. She just knows. So she wants to say to both of you, there's lots of love coming. There's a great big heart coming. Okay. And it's Mum's Day soon, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
I've got no mums left here, so I find it a bit difficult, to suddenly, all of a sudden, my daughter said to me, Mum, I'm going to pick you up. We're going to the theatre on Saturday night. I said, are we? She said, yeah. For Mum's, we're going for a meal first. It's for your mother's birthday. So, okay. Because, you don't have mums, you try and put it off a bit, don't you? You try and put the memories off, But she says, please, don't forget about me. I was your mum. And I was your grandma.
Yeah.
Okay, you know that, darling. You know that, don't you, darling?
Yeah.
And she's saying, she's done really well. She has. This is what she says. She does. Yeah. You've done really well, haven't you, darling? Yeah. And you will always do well, won't you, sweetheart? Yeah. Good girl. That's what Grandma says. Yeah. If Grandma was here, she'd be giving you a big kiss on the cheek. Yes, she would. And she'd say, you're a good girl. Yeah. So you just keep being good for Mum, okay? Because Mum has some tough things to deal with at times. Yeah, I know, sometimes, but, she's your shining light, darling. Yeah. She's your shining light, is what your Mum says. And she says, and she was my shining light as well. Yeah. She always was. From the moment she was born, she was my shining light. Yeah. Okay. So she says, and there's a big star up there I keep looking at for you. Okay? A big star. Yeah? Good girl. All right. So you like the stars because Grandma's putting a big star up there for you, darling. All right? Yes. Okay. All right, sweetheart. Well, take a lot of love from Grandma, won't you? And you take a lot of love from Mum, darling. Okay. Your dad's there as well. Oh, it must be his dad. Your grandfather. It's your dad's dad then. Because it's a dad's love I'm feeling. Dad's still here. Yes. Because your mum said he's a bit difficult, isn't he? That's what your mum said. But it is his dad there. So be your father-in-law, darling. Yes. Okay, so he's just coming in and saying to you, hello to you, and giving you lots of love and saying, well done. Well done. All right? Okay. So just take a lot of love, both of you, won't you? Yes. Okay, all right. She said she don't often have messages, so I wanted to bring one to her tonight. Yeah. She was hoping she'd get some. There, you say you did then. You said, Grandma must have been listening to you. Yeah, she must have done. All right, darling. Well done. All right. Thank you. Thank you for working with me. Yeah. You know me, I tend to just carry on. And Barbara will tell you the same. Can I come to you, darling? Yeah? Okay. I've got a gentleman coming. Yeah? Yeah. I've got a gentleman coming here for you, sweetheart. Okay. Do you have a brother in the spirit world? Because what I'm feeling is very much like a brother coming here for you. So there was somebody who you were really quite close to. He wasn't an old man when he went to the spirit world, my darling, is what he's telling me. And he's saying it was like you were a brother and sister. He said there was no big relationship, but it was like we were brother and sister. We understood each other, this gentleman is saying. And I feel he wasn't an old man at all. He'd be in his 40s, maybe early 50s when he passed the spirit world. You're having a job to place him, aren't you? Okay, so we'll see if I can get anything else for him. Okay, I think you've always worked, my darling. And I think this is where, if you look to where you worked, I think this is where you'll find this. I have to call him a young man, because if he's 40, even if he's 50, he's young to me. So he's a young man, okay? When you're 76, everybody's young, I have to say that. So he's standing here. I believe he would have worked alongside of you, darling, he said. And he says there is a possibility that you were not aware that I'd passed away to the spirit world. He had a family. I'll see, were you in an office or something, or a building of some sort is where I can see him and you. And you're working. You use your hands, darling, is what he's telling me, with your work. Yeah? Yeah. No, so did he, actually. So did he, is what he's trying to tell me. I'm trying to get a little bit more from him. He's probably about 5'5". I'm only 5'2", I'm quite short. So I hate trying to judge height. But he was about 5'5", 5'6" as he's coming in here. And he would have had mousy brown hair, is what he's telling me. He had a party on the side as well. And he was of medium build. He said, I wasn't tiny, but I wasn't big. He was of medium build, is what he's telling me. Okay. He was a young man who had quite a lot to say for himself. quite a lot to say for himself. All right? Sorry? Most men. There you go. That's you in your place. All you gentlemen here tonight. But he had a lot to say for himself, darling. But he said, generally, I was right. But I think he liked to bring laughter into the workplace as well. Okay? And he said, I did leave the workplace, and I think this is why you don't understand that he's actually in the spirit world. He left where you worked, is what he's saying, and he moved on to another job, is what he's actually telling me. All right? And it was through the job that he actually passed away. So I don't know whether you've heard of anybody that would have passed away because of it was, I don't know, I'm not saying it's an accident, but it was something within the job that took him into the spirit world, darling. You know where we are then now. Good. Because he wasn't going to give up. We're going to keep saying this until you know where we are. Okay. All right. He wants to say he's very pleased to see you sitting there tonight. All right. I don't believe you ever spoke about it to him. No, not to him anyway, darling. You didn't. So he said, so it's not, he said, but now she could. Now you could. But you wouldn't have had the courage to have spoken about it before, darling, when you were quite a lot younger. You wouldn't have had the courage to talk about it. It was your belief, okay? And I think even now, sweetheart, you can be a bit of a private lady. You don't tell everybody everything. No, your problems are your problems, darling. And this is what he's saying. And he said, so it wouldn't, he said, so you wouldn't have spoken about it then. But he would very much like to be able to have a conversation with you now, because he said, no, what I know now, because he didn't believe that there was anything like life after life. So he's saying he'd love to be able to talk to you, but he does follow you because you talk to other people about your religion now, don't you? Yeah, that's what he's telling me. And he says, I like to be beside her. I like to listen to her. He said, tell her I'm learning from her as well. He said, because you don't know everything when you get here. He said, you have to learn, you have to work hard at it sometimes. So he said, I just need to let you know that he is completely beside you, and he walks with you, and he listens to you when you're talking to other people. And he said, tell her she's right. Tell her she's got it all right. She has got it right. Sometimes you question yourself, but he said, tell her it is right. She does. It is right. Whatever it is you're telling other people, because although it's your understanding, you're passing it to somebody else, and they have to make their understanding of it then. Same as everything, that any medium will tell you. You have to read their understanding, and we find our own understanding. But he wants to say, thank you for acknowledging him tonight, for finding him. He said, there's not many people he can come back to because they don't believe in this. All right, so he wanted to just come back and say, thank you very much. But he said, I'm sorry if you couldn't get who I was, but he said, I'm glad you did finally realise who it was. So he said, thank you, my love. Thank you very much indeed. So he said, you don't mind if I still join you, though, and listen to what you have to say to people. It's not going to frighten you, is it? Is what he wants to say, okay? Because I know that you do feel spirit anyway. You think you do. You think, do I or don't I? Is it them or is it me? Yes? I know, it's what he's telling me. So you're basically quite a shy lady, I think. Unless you've got something to say, and then that's it. You'll stand up and have your say. Okay. But he wants to say, thank you for listening to him tonight and for allowing him to get his point across to you, darling. All right? And he listens to the points that you get across to other people. All right. So thank you very much, sweetheart. Thank you. Right, I'm going to do another one, Nick. All right? Oh, what time? Another one? Yeah. Absolutely. He won't say that 10 o'clock, will he? Can I come to you, darling? Yeah? Okay. If I can come to you. You've got quite a few people in the spirit world, sweetheart. You'd know of a younger man that passed the spirit world as well. Sorry? Oh, I don't like possibilities. No. He's telling me you do know of him. He would have had a hand in his passing, my darling. Yeah, a hand in his own passing. He said, in as much as I wouldn't acknowledge that I had a problem at all. Okay. But you do that. He was a young man when he passed the spirit world, sweetheart. I would say in his late 20s, early 30s is what he's giving me. You don't say you don't know. No? Okay. Well, I can't send him back and say she don't know you. Okay. So is anybody else around there? Can anybody else pick up a young man that would have passed away at an early age? No? And who would have had what were you? You do now. It's all right. I used to tell my kids I've got eyes in the back of my head, and they believe me.
I knew that too.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'll come to you anyway then, Nick, yeah? So he wants to say to you, he did have a hand in his own passing, didn't he, Nick? Yes, he did. He took his own life. But I was trying to put it nicely, sweetheart. You understand that, don't you? So he's saying, and it didn't matter what anybody had said, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. Because, you know, there's so many here have said, well, if I'd have known he felt like that, if I could have done this, I could have done that. Nobody could have done anything. He said, it was my life. It was my decision. It was my choice to take my own life. He'd had enough. He couldn't actually cope anymore. You understand that? Couldn't cope with what was going on. And he said, and I did try. I know that there were people that did try and help him as well, Nick. All right? So he said, but it just got too much for me. It just all got on top of me. He said, and in one of my moments, that was it. And he said, I've not regretted it. He has to say to you, I haven't regretted it. He said, I learned what I needed to learn. And I think this is possibly a lesson for quite a lot of us. We don't all live to be old people, do we? And we come down here because we've got certain things we need to learn. And he said he learned what he needed to learn. And then he said, well, okay, that's it. It's time to go back. It's time to go back. You know, this happened to me when my sister passed away at 39. I actually went, a couple of months afterwards, I went for a spiritual weekend. And I had this, it was actually, it's a question and answer with a guide. And I was very new into it, you know, there was this room full of people, it really was. And I sat right at the back, being new, you know, and he said, anybody got a question? I had nothing, you all know more than I don't know anything yet. So in the end, he said, I've got one more question, and it's for the young lady in the back row. He said, the one who's too afraid to put her hand up. And I turned and I thought, no, the wall was behind me, so it couldn't be anybody else. So he said, you know, she did try once, and then she changed her mind. He said, you have a question. I know that you have a question that maybe other people haven't asked or will not ask. So he said, so can I have your question, please? So I said, yes. Okay. I said, do we have an allotted time on our, you know, time span on our earthly life? So he said, no, we don't have an allotted time. He said, but let me, as a layman, explain to you what your life is like, what it's like. He said, imagine, he said, you can imagine a chain, the links in a chain. He said, huge big links. He said, that's your pathway. Okay. And you've got these big links all joined together. And he said, every so often, there's a weak link. All right. And it depends how you deal with that, how you overcome that, whether you get through that weak link and move on to the next. Because we'll always have more weak links, won't we? There'll always be other things we have to carry on. And he said, and I know you're asking this on a personal level. So I said, yes. He said, I need just to tell you that the young lady you're thinking about, she'd reached her last weak link, and that was it. She didn't want any more. So, you know, he said, does this make sense? I said, yes, it did make a lot of sense to me. Because she'd been telling me for years she wasn't going to live to 40. And she didn't. She was 39 and a half. So something inside of her told her. Something's this young man. He knew he wasn't going to overcome what was being thrown at him. He tried. He did struggle, and he did try it. But he said, well, I just couldn't. And so I thought, okay, well, that's it. It's time to go. He did what he meant, what he had to do when he was here. I think he was quite an outgoing young man, actually. He loved life. He was full of laughter, you know, and he said he liked to make people smile. He said that was the be-all, end-all for me, to make others laugh as well. He said, what I was feeling in there, I didn't show them. He didn't show them at all, Nick. They thought he was this wonderful, outgoing young man with lots of laughter. He was very happy-go-lucky. He said, they didn't know what went on inside of me. He said, and I couldn't tell them. And I wouldn't have told them, okay? So he said, so he wants to say thank you for remembering him. Thank you for being part of his life, Nick, okay? But you know he's working with young people who come over now, don't you? People who come over in the same way that he did. He's working with them now. and helping them on their journey, their pathway. All right. So thank you very much for working with me. All right. Lovely young man. Lovely young man. Okay. All right. So he's going to call me to time. So can I just read this to you? So, right. As Barbara would tell you, I always like to read something before I go. So, okay. 2 90-year-old men, Mike and Joe, had been lifelong friends. Now, when it's clear that Joe is dying, Mike visits him every day. Now, one day Mike says, Joe, we both loved football all our lives, and we played football on Saturdays together for so many years. Please do me one favour. When you get to heaven, somehow you must let me know if there's football there. Well, Joe looks up at Mike from his deathbed and he says, Mike, you've been my best friend for many years. If it's at all possible, I'll do this favour for you. Shortly after that, Joe passes on. At midnight, a couple of nights later, Mike is awakened from a sound sleep by a blinding flash of white light and a voice calling out to him, Mike, Mike. Who is it? Asked Mike, sitting up suddenly. Who is it? Mike, it's me, Joe. You're not Joe. Joe's just died. I'm telling you, it's me, Joe, insists the voice. Joe, where are you? I'm in heaven, replies Joe. I've some really good news and a little bad news. So Joe says, well, okay, the good news, Joe says, because Mike says, can I have the good news first? So he said, well, the good news is that there is football in heaven. Better yet, all of our old friends who died before us are here too. Better than that, we're all young again. And better still, it's always springtime and it never rains or snows. And best of all, we can play football all we want and never get tired. Well, that's fantastic, says Mike. It's beyond my wildest dreams. So what's the bad news? So he says, well, actually, you're not playing for this Saturday's match. There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Fordham.
Oh, yes.
Bless you. Well, friends, I know that we all had a wonderful evening and an excellent demonstration of mediumship. I would just like to point out to my aunt, who is obviously watching at home, yes, she will be back. I just happened to catch a comment from my aunt on the screen, so I thought I'd respond. Can't often vary these days. But thank you for such a wonderful, wonderful evening and such upliftment and joy, but emotion too. And I think that's important. And I know that not everybody gets a message every. It's not our way of encouraging you to keep coming back. I promise. But I do know that in the readings, the philosophies, the humour, and even just the seeing of other people's responses, there is evidence and proof there, whether we get a message or not. So listen out for that sound when it comes, because it changes your life. It really does. Who knows? Maybe you could end up here too. And you would. That's where we all started, walking in the door for the first time. And interestingly enough, the end of my first week, I was told to make the tea, believe it or not. It was so rubbish, they told me never to make the tea again, and they made me treasurer the week afterwards. They were quite happy for me to count beans, but not boil them. Yeah, absolutely. But no, seriously, friends, give a big thank you to Anne Fordham. And I do have some notices, actually, that do tie in with some things that you have said too. I would like to thank everybody for their donations last week. In particular, the 2.5 blooming carloads that I had to take over of, and I will just say that I know they're being sweet and innocent and don't want to be pointed out, so I will honour that. But there are 2 people here in particular who brought, basically, in my car, 2.5 carloads of brand new clothing that was all taken over to Pymore. And I will just tell you a little funny story that just touches my heart and how wonderful it was. I got there, and my mum's neighbour had said just before we left, they've said they don't want no more clothes. They've got too much to sort through. Oh, let's chance it anyway. So we still went. Got there. Oh, well, as you've brought them, we'll accept them, but please no more. And I'm thinking, I've got another carload at home. So I drove round to the back, pulled out the first bag and said, where do you want this? Well, what is it? I said, it's all brand new, all lovely and warm. And she looked at it and there was still wrappers on it and labels everywhere. And she went, bring it here now. So I said, all right then, no worries. I said, well, I do have another, 2 carloads of it. But he said not to bring any more. I overruled, bring it. So they were very grateful and very appreciative of everything. But, just being able to be there and see the work that was being done. It was an extremely well-oiled machine and a lot of compassionate and truly wonderful people working to try and make a little bit of a difference to someone's life. And I know that as soon as that wagon gets over there, there's going to be a lot of lives made different because of good, genuine, decent people. So thank you. And of course, we are building up lots and lots and lots of various different things each week. Something gets added. We've got a new, we've got a new run so that we don't send the medium AOT, as my grandfather would call it. If nobody knows what that means, Google it. I'm not saying it from the platform. And of course, we may have a bit of a surprise next week for everyone in the hall, fingers crossed. It's just so wonderful that message of this is your church is heard. It is your church. I'm a key holder. I turn up each week and unlock the door. What happens is up to you. What goes on is because of you. So thank you all for your continued support of giving me something to unlock. So thank you. And Mother, who's the medium next week? Oh, I caught her out. First week in a year, I've caught her out. Well, in that case, while she's just having a route around, a big thank you to everyone watching at home, a big thank you to everyone here, and once again, a big thank you to the lovely and the group of Working Within Spirit and Fordham. And next week, we've got Tracy Bidwell. Lovely. Tracy's back. So she's another good one. Come along, have a look. I know. And no, not yet. I think Tracy came over with Dora Sheridan for a fledglings. Was one of Wendy's thing. So we get to be able to say we had a bit of a preview. It was wonderful. So excellent. Well, friends, as you may be aware, last week we made the announcement that we are now an organization all of our own, but open to all for independence and upliftment and unity. If you haven't been following online what's been going on, good news. The training's finished. We've got 2 more ministers. So we've got 1 more still learning up north, another one in training, and I've got another one doing his coursework down south. So already a week in, things are, obviously all of this has been going on in the background for a number of months. But it's wonderful to know that unity and individuality can mean something to everyone, where everyone can come together in spite of their differences and celebrate their similarities. And as it brings it all round in a loop, as always with Spirit, I say, let us pray. Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends, to witness your truth and your proof that life is indeed eternal, and that we can peer through that door and see what we need to see so that we may witness that truth. As we move out into the world, let us take with us that message, Great Spirit, but also the message that love wins, that kindness rules, and that compassion, unequivocal passion, an unstoppable force in this world, will never be beaten and will never surrender, that we can be united as one and that we can stand as one, and that the forces of darkness have no chance when it comes to unconditional love. Let us share that message with the world, Great Spirit, as we go out into this world and say, of course, until we meet again, everything we do will be in love, in truth, and eternal light. Amen. Well, friends, thank you. We're about to say goodnight to everyone at home so that they can go and switch on iPlayer and see what happened to Gray. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell me, because I'm looking when I get home. But, of course, we thank you all for joining us online. Until next week, we will be back. Oh, I nearly got in trouble. Turn the camera straight. It's time for my... It's because it's not over there reminding me. You're confusing me this week. We are about to have our raffle, but as always, everyone at home must be able to get their own copy of Bully's special prize. So this is Bully's special prize for this week. So get your print screen ready as we go. Press print screen or function print, whichever it is that you guys do at home. There you go. You have got a copy of this week's Bully special prize now to print of yourselves. And of course, we're going to have a raffle, and shortly I'm going to hand over to Sam and Hannah and Bully and Henry. And sorry, who is this?
Raffle or Waffle.
And Waffle. I'm wondering if I should take that personally. No, that'd be a first for me, wouldn't it? But friends, for everyone at home, God bless you. May the peace of the Great Spirit go with you all. But from all of us here in Littleport, after 3, 1, 2, 3, good night, and God bless you. And hit it, maestro. That's it, yeah.